Hey, we are here today and we have a special guest with us, Elsa, Paulo Friere's wife.
Hi. Nice to meet you too.
So, Elsa, first question, we're going to ask you some questions about Paulo.
Okay.
So, we want to know, what was Paulo's, was he for public education?
Yes, Paulo was for public education. In fact, he just had a high school named after him in Holyoke, Massachusetts in September 2013. It's called Paulo Friere Social Justice Charter School.
All right, so, Elsa,
Yeah.
what was Paulo's idea of education?
Well, Paulo had a very unique idea of education. He had this idea that children are like empty bank accounts, and the knowledge that we give them as teachers builds up their bank account so they have not money in their bank account, but knowledge.
Okay, so teachers are the depositing money into the bank account, and then the student is receiving everything. They start off as an empty bank account.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. All right, Elsa, well, it was nice having you on the show today. Thanks for your time, and we'll see you again some other time.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. And now we have another special guest. He was friends with Paulo, very close friends with him, John Lewis. So, Mr. Lewis, since you were close friends with Paulo, do you mind telling us a little bit more about Paulo himself?
Of course. Well, he was born in the lovely country of Brazil on September 19, 1921. At a very young age, he got to experience hunger because his country was impacted very much by the U.S. Great Depression. During his childhood, he lived amongst the poor rural families, and it is in this condition that he attended school. In school, he wasn't dumb. It was that he was just too hungry to be able to concentrate on anything else other than having something to eat. These experiences taught him to come up with the theories he came up with in education, which the overall focus of them was to establish a connection with the people, taking in consideration where they were coming from and the basic necessities that they needed to be met before being able to teach them.
So it sounds like you and Paulo went through a hard time during school, and even though they went through these hard times, Paulo still managed to come up with these theories for education.
Yes.
So, Mr. Lewis, as Paulo's friend, would you be able to tell us what his 5 biggest contributions to education were?
Yeah. Well, the first one would be the banking account theory, and then progression education. Critical pedagogy was a pretty big one of his, and then co-construction of knowledge, which is like the new knowledge that is produced in a classroom from an interaction between students and teachers. And then probably the fifth that I could think of would be the problem-posing education, which encourages a student to become active in thinking about and acting upon their world, and then a student using their own voice.
So it seems like Paulo had some big impacts on education with his contributions.
I would say so.
So thanks for your time, Mr. Lewis.
Thank you.
Nice having you on the show.
Nice
See you
to
again some other time. And now we have special guest, Paulo Friere.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Paulo, we're glad to have you. And could you tell us what events, people, and memories significantly influenced you?
Sure, yeah, definitely. Well, one of the many different things that influenced me was, I could say, my culture, and being Latin American and Brazilian. Having the World Cup coming up this summer, so check that out. But being born in Northeast Brazil, the economic crisis really affected our neighborhood and just basically my family and all that. And so we went through some hard struggles, and that really just influenced my life and all the things that I've done. And so far, just the theories that I come up with really relate to what my background was all about. And so my social condition didn't really allow me to have an education. I didn't really get to go to school how other kids went. And so my experience really showed me once again the relationship between social class and knowledge. And so I grew up living just in a poor village in Brazil, just playing soccer and whatnot. So, but it was just a bunch of rural families, and we were all the same poor same background, and so I began to understand the deep understanding for the lives and the socioeconomic of learning. And so, to act actively, a person must link the knowledge to the action and use their knowledge in a way to change something. And I strongly believe in people actively working together to solve problems, and people must reflect on reality to do so. And so, that's just one of the main ideas of the theories behind all that.
So basically, that education is not neutral.
Yeah, it's like a fluid, never static. So it's always evolving and changing.
So Paulo, throughout your life, who did you manage to critique the most?
Oh well, I critiqued several people, several individuals, but one of my banking idea came from a young man called Jean-Jacques Rousseau, and so Rousseau believed that children were already so close to being an active learner, and they just needed that extra push by a teacher to fulfill the knowledge. And so you know how that is when you think you know something or how to do something, and all you need is that little push to have that light bulb just turn on. And so that's what Rousseau believed. He also critiqued. I also critiqued a guy named John Dewey, and so he was famous for the description of education being a mechanism for social change, and he explained that the means of education being a regulation of the process of coming to share the social consciousness. And so with that, Dewey said that the adjustments of individual activity on the basis of social consciousness was the only sure method of social reconstruction. And based off these critiques is where I came up with banking theory, just putting these two together and saying, you know, we can mix these two and just come up with the banking theory. Banking theory, so that's just a little background on how that came to be.
So it was Rousseau and John Dewey.
Yeah. Really influenced the banking theory.
Okay.
Also, another person that really influenced my life was my wife, Elza. And so she was not only a great wife to me, but also a wonderful mother to her 5 children. And she was a role model to me and encouraged me to pursue my studies and what I was doing more in depth. And so not only that, but she really encouraged me to follow my dreams, just being there with me through my hard times and my challenges. She was just my support system, and so I really enjoyed that.
So your biggest influences happen to be your wife, your culture, and your background.
Yes, definitely. Those are the 3 main things.
So Paulo, could you tell us a little bit more about what you believe is the main role of the teacher?
Well, I like to think of education as a bank, and so the student is an empty bank account. There's nothing in it, and so the teacher is the one full of that knowledge, and so the role of the teacher is having to fill that empty bank account, which is a student. And so the teacher is the one that has the knowledge and knows what she or he is talking about in the classroom. And so the student really just comes into the classroom without a clue, has no knowledge or anything. So the teacher just talks and enforces and teaches what she knows or he knows into the student, and just the student listens and complies and learns from what the teacher has to say.
So basically, when the student comes into the classroom, the student knows nothing. The teacher knows it all.
Yeah, exactly.
So, Paulo, in what ways do you see yourself? In other words, how do you self-identify?
Well, to answer your first question, every morning I look at myself in the mirror, so that's how I see myself. But I'm also just a little joke there, you know. But to answer your question, so there are 2 sayings that show my philosophical self-identity, and first one is it goes by if I was the same that I was 40 years ago, I would profoundly be disappointed. But at the same time, if I was nothing of what I was 40 years ago, I would be profoundly sad. Secondly, the other saying would be, no one who suffers a substantive loss continues the same. Reinvention is a requirement for life. And I believe that one must connect back to his or her past and never forget that. And at the same time, you know, reinvent who they are. You can't just stay put and be like, oh, just that's all I have. But
All right, thanks, Paulo. We're glad to have you on the show. And we'll
thank
see
you for
again
having
some
me
other time.
here. All right, thank you. basically don't just walk the walk, but actually don't just walk the talk. I don't even know how to say this. My bad. Don't walk the talk. Wait, it doesn't even make sense. Never mind. There are two sayings that don't show my philosophical self identity. That's just doesn't even sound right.
What? What?
I just no. Wait.
What's going on?
Cut.
The camera.
Cut.
Cut.
Bloopers.